I hate to tell you this, but most founders that I work with skip over one of the most essential and fundamental aspects to their marketing, and their effectiveness is suffering from it. Brand strategy goes beyond the color palettes, logos, and even your tagline. Being able to tell your brand story is a non-negotiable if you want to stand out and be remembered. So let me ask you, how do you want someone to describe your business when you're not around? A brand story helps people relate your business to possible referrals, collaborators, connections, but you need to stick in their memory. In this video, we're going to break down an essential aspect of brand storytelling, which is your core brand narrative. Why does storytelling matter? Why should we as founders and leaders even care about something like this? Because simply it's going to be how you get others to care. And not just care, but remember your marketing message long after the reel is over, the email has been archived, and you are not in their face talking to them. Because the data shows that the average person sees between 4,000 and 10,000 marketing messages every single day. And people remember on average only 10% of the information they consume after 48 hours. But our brains are hardwired to retain information through stories and storytelling. Evoking emotion is what triggers someone's long-term memory. And using brand storytelling, it gives people a way to share more about your business in a way that's relatable and genuine, and again, has that attention and memory built in. So if you want more visibility, consistent sales, and content that builds connection and trust, you do need to learn how to nail that overarching narrative around your business. So how exactly do we go about the brand narrative, right? And what does that even mean? Because I know that's not a term that people talk about very often. I group your core narrative into 3 different areas. So the first one would be your core values and your purpose, which is the reason why you started your business in the first place. You know, it's pretty trite now to be like, start with why, but I think that understanding that purpose, you know, entrepreneurship is rough. Entrepreneurship is more setbacks, more obstacles, and there are sometimes wins in this game. It's long-term, and there's so many times I've wanted to give up, or you've probably wanted to give up, and that core values and purpose, it just helps keep that North Star, that reminder of like, this is what I'm working towards. This is what I'm looking towards. This is the future I'm trying to create for myself, the future I'm trying to create for customers, for the larger community that I live in. And it's why we care. And if we can't explain to our customers or our funders why we care about our business, then why should they? Right? That's the brutal, harsh truth. Some of the questions that I do like to ask my clients, and some of these are inspired or even directly from the 3-Word Rebellion from Dr. Michelle Mazer. And it's like, you know, why do you care so much about this? Why does your business exist, right? Why is this problem worth solving? What change are you trying to create? Really just start to free write. The more, you know, you just kind of just let that editor go, you will start to notice that there's certain phrases and themes that will keep coming up, patterns will start to emerge, and I just take that free write and I just start highlighting of what really jumps out at me, what can be a part of my larger core values and my purpose. The second part of that core brand narrative is really sharing the journey that you're going on. And I know that it's become more of a given in like online marketing circles about sharing that journey or building in public. But as an avid fiction reader, I actually see the journey aspect a bit differently than others. You know, there's already content around that, but the brand narrative is what shapes the marketing message, the positioning, and the overarching strategy around your content. It's not just what's happening in the moment. That can make good content, but that's not part of the brand narrative. So I have a little bit more of a flexible storytelling framework that I'll probably share in a future video that's more about writing the copy and the content and the strategy. It could be its own video. Let me know if that interests you, but I'm actually going to explain this more from that brand strategy perspective because that's important to start with. In our own journeys, and this is again before we started our business, there's going to be key moments that shape who you are as a person, your worldview, the business that you are creating. And those key moments have the potential to stay with people for months or years to come after you've told the story. I like to think of these as turning points. It could be a major illness. It could be coming out as LGBTQ+. It could be maybe you leaving an abusive relationship. It could be losing a beloved family member. These are moments that they put your life into perspective. They help you to understand that core purpose we talked about earlier. It helps people feel like you did in that moment. It helps people be in your shoes, which also helps them feel a part of something bigger than themselves. But this section is about bringing it back into those micro moments that illustrate that impact in a way that feels very real and visceral. This is the part that evokes the emotion in your brand story. And again, that's the part that is essential to making that lasting impression that we want to have on people. There are pitches, like pitches for investing or like pitch competitions that I've been in the crowd for that I can practically recite word for word because of how they made me feel. And people would pay out the nose for that kind of brand awareness. And you can do that completely for free. As you write through your journey, these are some of the points that I make sure to include, again, in the pitches, in the brand story. What was that crisis point? We just talked a little bit about that. This is that darkest moment where maybe you were forced to face the things in your life that you'd been putting off or you weren't ready to deal with yet. What brought you to that point? How did it make you feel? From that point, what helped you take that pain and decide to create something constructive from it? So I like to call this the catalyst point, because it's discussing the crisis point makes your catalyst and the action you took afterward a lot more meaningful and impactful. But I want to just have a quick disclaimer. This isn't to say that trauma makes us stronger or that whatever happened should have happened to you and there's always a reason for every traumatic thing that happens to you, because I do not subscribe to that at all. But I don't like to linger too long in the pain. We're not here to trigger people potentially. And we're not obligated to turn that pain into purpose. But the people and the times that you've chosen to do that in your life, it is powerful and it has that staying power. And then finally, how did this lead you to starting your business? What lessons did you learn along the way? What feedback have you gotten? So no one is ever done on this journey, but it helps to describe how your transformation and this journey has sparked a bigger moment for not just yourself, but for the people that are affected by your business. And then finally, you've hooked them emotionally. They're invested in the impact that you're creating. They're invested in your personal journey. But that is not quite enough, especially nowadays, now that more people are building personal brands. So you have to introduce them to your background and your expertise. There are people out there that do not have their customers' best interests at heart. Big names potentially in the online marketing spaces, and they've used that vulnerability, they've used that trauma to manipulate people's emotions and to short circuit the decision-making processes. And that's not what I'm trying to do. I know it may sound like it a little bit, but using strategy to sell is just a bad look. It's a balancing act of helping people feel that emotion that you did, while also helping them to actually get real live results instead of just making a promise with no results. So the way that I think is the best way to offset this is you backing up the story with your background and expertise. We talked before, about why is this problem worth solving, but why are you specifically the one to solve it? And I know that sometimes that can bring up some imposter syndrome, like, why am I actually the one to solve this? But think through, this could be a unique mix of your strengths, of your education, your certifications, the brands that you've worked with, the industries that you've worked in. This could be the results people have already gotten after working with you. This could be the unique identities that shape the work you do. And sometimes I'll get pushback on that last point because I think that none of us want to be tokenized and be called the non-binary copywriter or maybe the Black occupational therapist or something like that. But it's not about the identity itself or claiming that is enough to invest in you. Oh, I'm just investing in someone because they are this tokenized identity. But I think that it's important to acknowledge that these lived experiences, they shape us and how we see the world. And it impacts the businesses that we create. You know, there's lots of data that points out that diverse businesses have better returns for investors, are more profitable. And it goes even a little bit deeper than that. Because if you are in one of those lived experiences or identities, a lot of us left that corporate world because it wasn't serving us, it was draining us. And I feel like it's okay to call this out, that that's why we left. As business owners of excluded groups, we're now building the culture that we needed at earlier stages of our journey. For me, I started owning how being non-binary allows me to see beyond the standard default options presented to us, and how I incorporate that into the strategies that I develop for my clients. And I had a client find me cold by just Googling like trans social media manager or neurodivergent copywriter. People want to feel seen and understood by the person that they're working with. No one can do the work exactly like you. And it is time to own that. So as you're pulling together the threads of your brand's narrative, what's next? So in my signature framework, I do talk about, this is the first aspect of nailing that profitable positioning, something I'll talk about a little bit in the following video. But you can start weaving this into your marketing right away. Your story can make a great welcome or introduction carousel, like on social media. You can include some of these aspects in your welcome email sequence when you're nurturing your leads. It can inform the bio that you have on social media or the longer bio that is introduced when you're speaking or going on podcasts. One thing that I've noticed in my own work is LinkedIn is the social media platform where I'm most active. And it's a very place where you would least expect it. But the post where I speak about my own story and my journey, recovering from trauma, recovering from domestic violence, my identity as a non-binary and neurodivergent person, have performed far better than my educational posts alone. And I think it's pretty simple. We prefer to invest in people, not businesses. So even if your service is amazing and solves people's problems, we still need to feel connected to the person behind the business. You know, otherwise, why wouldn't we go to whatever the big box or Walmart equivalent is to whatever service you're providing? We'll end up defaulting to price. And again, no one wants to compete on price and race to the bottom. So I'm going to include these narrative questions that I have talked about in the video in this description so you can do the work yourself. But if you want more feedback or you want to go more into depth into these things, if you live local to Kansas City, I'm speaking about a compelling brand story at Global Entrepreneurship Week on November 19th, 2024. I'll put the link to register. Even if you don't want to go to my session, there's going to be a lot of sessions that are available. It's a completely free conference, and it's a great resource to Kansas City locals. But don't worry if you're not in Kansas City. I'll be doing that same live workshop. I'm going to stream it directly to YouTube, potentially LinkedIn, but definitely YouTube. The week after Thanksgiving, probably on the Thursday, the 5th, I'm going to do it around lunchtime. Once I have everything, I'll announce that and I'll put that link as well down below. But this is really just a great starting point to building out your marketing strategy as we gear up for 2025, and which is something I'm planning to dive into deeper with future videos. So look forward to some of those later. Thanks.